Okay, let's get some data. So we're going to go to the site data.census.gov, and this is a portal to lots and lots of data, not just the every 10-year census, but much more detailed data also. I'm going to type in poverty. It's something that, a topic that I do a lot of research on. You can feel free to do poverty also, or if you would like to look at some other type of demographic layer, that would be perfectly fine and encouraged. So this gives us the overall statistic at the top. 13.1% of all people in the United States are living below the poverty line. And then if we look down in the chart below, the table here, we see that broken down into slightly more nuanced stories based on age, based on race, educational attainment, employment status, lots of different ways. We can also see measures of extreme poverty. For example, what percent of people are living under half of the poverty line. So you have your poverty line, and then you have half of that poverty line. And you still have, let's see, well, they say about 18.7 million people in the United States are living under half of that poverty line. What we want to do, though, is I want to get a more detailed version based on county level data. And I'd like you to do this also, even if you're not doing it for poverty, whatever you're doing it for. Click on this filter, and I'm going to go by geography here. You could also go by years and do kind of a motion chart, like we've done before. I'm going to go at the county level, but I'm just going to pick a specific state. Otherwise, you're going to get a little too much data for this particular assignment. I'm going to get the county level for Ohio, which is where I'm from. You can do that also, or you can get any state you want. However, whatever state you choose, I want you to choose this box, all counties within that state. That's going to give us a nice bulk of data that then we can analyze for this week's assignment. So once you've selected all that, once you've gotten to the checkbox, you're going to click Hide. If, by the way, you noticed you only had a checkbox for Ohio and then it didn't expand, or whatever state, probably you clicked on state level instead of county. So do make sure you click on the county level there. Then I'm going to hide this. And now if I look at this down here, I have a map of the poverty status. And this is great. This could be something to explore. But I want to go into the data. I want to actually pull it into Google Sheets. So what do I do to get that? So if I click on View All Tables, it'll show me all these different ways I can look at poverty just within Ohio. So here I have Ashtabula County up in the northeast Ohio, and then county by county I have all this data. Within each county I have a few different things. I have the total number of people, and then even with something as specific as the census, there is a little bit of give or take on how accurate. It's still an estimate because it's based on surveys. This right here is based on the American Community Survey, which is conducted, there's about 300,000 people every month, 97% response rate. It's a really good survey, much more detailed than the 10-year census also. But one downside is because they're not checking every person every month, there is a little bit of plus or minus there, which we'll talk about later in the course in terms of confidence intervals. And then we have an estimate of what number of people are living below the poverty line, and again, some plus or minus there, and then an estimate, and then it goes on to the next county. So what I want us to do now is I'm going to click on this poverty status and click on download. So I'm going to select just that very basic one and then hit download selected. This will allow me to do whatever I want to do. The advantage of 1 year is if you're seeing a very rapidly developing trend, probably you want the 1 year. The 5 year is much more accurate. The plus minus is much smaller. So it gives you a more precise reading if it's not something that's changing drastically. So typically I would go with the 5-year here, and it really doesn't matter which you use for this assignment. And then you're going to click on download. So they will prepare the files, download now, and we're going to get a zip file, which I will then open up, and I should see my two files. The metadata just explains all the different codes. For this, I think it's sufficient to just get the data itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that up, and then I'm going to save that somewhere on my computer, maybe in Documents or something, as a CSV file. That's comma separated value file, and just somewhere where you're going to remember it, because we're going to import it here in just a second. So I'm going to click Save. And yes, so in a CSV, you can't have formulas and formatting and all that fancy stuff. That's okay, because we're going to do that in Google Sheets. So the next thing I want you to do is then open up Google Sheets, and you should have your stuff in here. Hopefully your week 3 won't be blank. I'm going to click on the plus sign down here to give me a new sheet, double click on that to rename it as week 4 and press enter. And then I'm going to go to File, Import, and I'm going to go to Upload, select a file from my device, and wherever I just saved it, in my case I did Documents, wherever you save it is fine, and this should give you a menu so that you can fully import it. It's important that you want to replace current sheet. If you replace your spreadsheet, it's going to replace everything else that you've done in previous weeks. So do make sure you do replace current sheet, and then the rest you can just take the defaults and import the data. And bam, it should appear. Notice that this is the actual data. It's not based on an import HTML formula. And in fact, for this particular data, the import HTML formula would not work if you were wondering why I didn't just use that. Notice that it has changed the structure of the data somewhat. So instead of having Ashtabula County, then Athens County, Adams County, whatever, across the top, and having like 6 columns within each one, it gives us each column as a row, which is going to turn out to be pretty nice.